Hi everyone. I'm going to do a quick video on my best practices for building a website. There's a lot of things that I feel that a lot of people overlook when they're building a website, mostly the newcomers. I know I was doing it up until about a year and a half ago, but I think it's something that will make it the website easier for your end user to use. There's a couple of things for accessibility across multiple products or across multiple devices. The first one I'm going to start off with is creating an accessibility section on your web page. By default, this section should not show up on your web page. I have the output from my HTML on the left side of the screen here, and on the right side I have the actual HTML. And all that this really is let me get rid of this style piece, and I'll save this. And all that it is it creates a menu that is not visible to normal browsers. This is only visible to people who have screen readers or who may be using some kind of browser that is aiding them in some way. So it just creates sections that they can jump down to. If I minimize my browser here because I don't have a scroll bar, if I hit menu, then I'll jump down to, let's say, the menu section. This isn't really a good representation, but setting something like this up for the end user would be very helpful in their situation. So I recommend doing this, creating a menu at the top, and you can either give it a style equals display none, or you can give it a class and do the same thing in your class. I think that it just makes it much easier for people who may have disabilities for your website to use. Just create anchors right above each section. So you have one that's at the very top of your web page, you have one that is above your menu, and then one above your content, and then it'll give people a chance to jump down. You can also do display none on some anchors that are going back up to the top, so that way they only display for people with screen readers. So that's definitely one option. The next thing I want to talk about, which I'm going to refresh my page here, is creating labels that actually act as the hotspot for your radios and your checkboxes. It's very simple to do. All that you do is you add 4 equals, and then you put in the ID of the item that you want to target. For this instance, I have the ID of radio. Actually, let me change that. ID of mail, and I'm going to change this to mail so that way it makes a little more sense. Now if I were to refresh this, if I hover over the mail piece, you'll notice that the radio button highlights. If I click on it, then my radio button is now active. If female is a normal instance where you don't have that 4 item, and if I try and click on female, I'm not going to get any interaction with it. I have to click on the radio button. Doing this gives the end user a much bigger area that they can click on, and it makes it easier for them to use your forms. So definitely use 4, and it's the same exact thing for your checkboxes. So just add that 4 piece and the ID that you're looking for, and then your checkboxes, the label will become hot clickable, or will become the hotspot. I shouldn't say the last thing. The second to last thing I'm going to talk about is really the links that you create on your page. So I'm going to maximize this. So on a page, we have 2 paragraphs. We have one that talks about facts about 2012, and then we have one that has click here. Most people, when they read through a website, they don't read word for word. They look for the links if there's links within the content, or they just skim through. And for an end user, if you see click here, you have to search around that to figure out what that link is going to be going to. If you actually create the text that is relevant to the link, the actual link itself, so facts about 2012, you know that you're going to a page that is about facts about 2012. This will also help with your search engine optimization, because Google will be able to figure out, okay, this link is supposed to be going to something that is about facts about 2012. And if those two match up, then your search engine or your search engine rankings will go up because you're serving up relevant content. So don't do the click here. Avoid it at all costs. Reword your sentence so that way you can just have the text that's relevant be the hotspot, the link itself. Another thing that I wanted to talk about is visited links. Most people like to color or stylize links in your web page. I recommend keeping an underline, and for your regular links, it's fine to change the color. But for something that, let's say I click on this, notice how the links turn purple. I would keep that purple color. That default is good for the majority of browsers, and people will understand that purple color. I've already been there, so if I go to that page, I'm going to be finding something that I've already seen before. Another thing that I want to talk about is videos. If you have a video on your website, which I don't have an example here, but if you have a video on your website and the second the person goes to your web page, your video starts playing, avoid that at all costs. Having videos that auto start is actually an annoyance, and people actually will leave your website because of it. What I recommend doing is just doing a thumbnail or one of the overlays with a little play symbol, and then if you click on that, then the video can load and start playing. If you were to do some kind of AJAX request or something like that, where if you were to click on that image, then the video would play. This is also optimizing it for people who have, or optimizing your web page for people who have slow connections like dial-up. They don't want to be sitting there waiting for a video to load while you're trying to play a video. They may not want to see that video, so they're not going to be willing to wait. So that's definitely one thing I would watch out for. And the last thing, and this is more a stylizing thing rather than, and it's kind of a pet peeve of mine. I have a Photoshop file here, and I have two buttons. One is just a square box with text in it, which you can do very, very easily with CSS. And the second is something that I stylized with Photoshop, which I could export as a button or as an image and use that as my button. And to me, it makes this looks like something I can click on. This doesn't really look like something I can click on. And believe me, I am definitely one of the worst offenders of this. Up until about a year ago, I started switching over or trying to switch over to something like this where it looks like clickable. If you are building a web page and you have to have something like this, my recommendation is to do a hover effect. Do a border that changes or colors that change, or do something that changes so that way it draws attention to that item. And then once people see that that has changed, then you can start you can put the hand cursor or the pointer cursor, and people will recognize that as something that they can click on. So my recommendation is to either stylize it in Photoshop, or if you have a browser that's capable, do CSS3. You can do this exact button style in CSS3 without ever touching any Photoshop. It is a little harder to do, but I think if you were to do that, you can reuse that code over and over, and it makes your life a lot easier. Your end users will definitely appreciate it because it'll make it easier for them to navigate around your website and get where you want them to go. So definitely use some of these practices, try them out. If you find a better method that works better for you, share it. I mean, that's what I'm all about. I want people to learn. I want to better everybody. I want to make the web a better place. So if you can think of something, either share, post a video, or just leave a comment, and I'll do my best to make sure that information gets out to everybody.